If you have knowledge of something, there's nothing wrong with sharing that with another teammate, whether it's somebody that's in your group or not.
You know, it's all a family. We're all trying to help each other. Nobody's trying to step on anybody's toes. But if you see something, you say something.
I'm assuming the expectation, and I'll ask all three of you gentlemen this question, is to compete for, if not win, another championship this year.
I mean, it belongs to us.
All right, if that intro looks unfamiliar, it's because I just accidentally played our intro to Bearcat Blitz. So yeah, if you haven't checked out that show yet, please hop over and check out the weekly show we do for the Jersey Bearcats. I'm personally very attached to that intro. I like it a lot, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But anyway, we've got a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on that. TJ, Krish, how you guys doing this morning?
Hi, good. How about you guys?
Doing great. Ready to talk about a whole lot of football, actually. Krish, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. You know, I'm ready to kick Dixie Woods and Indy's ass today, so I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
And no, he does not physically mean fight Dixie Woo. He wants the Mass Pirates to win, just so we're all clear there. Man, we have so much to talk about. I think today on our docket, IFL is going to go first, and we're going to start off with a story that came out of last night's game that I don't think any of us saw coming, if I'm being quite frank, and I want to get your guys' opinions on this one. This will probably be like the longest subject that we have on the IFL section, but this is one that just seems so out of character. But we're going to go ahead and pull up the video and you guys can kind of see what happened. And then we'll go from there, courtesy of Justin Kine on Twitter.
Final score 52-32. That was an interesting end to this one.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, as you guys can tell, that is Dave Mogensen, the head coach of the Iowa Barnstormers, going out and having a discourse with the fans. So, I mean, let's just go ahead and start there. I mean, what do you guys think? Well, hold on. Let me bring up one more thing real quick. We'll show his comments on what was said, and then we can go from there because this kind of adds a little bit more context why he was so fired up. But I have not had a chance to get that graphic uploaded, and it looks like we're out of space at the moment. But basically, Coach Mogs essentially said that there were some very vulgar comments said to him about his family, specifically his wife and kids, during the game. So he got fired up. He singled out who he thought had said the comments, and you could tell he was very angry. But judging by what was said, again, I haven't had a chance to get it prepared to put it on here because this was fairly recent. But it definitely opens up the question of, if that fan actually said the things, if he does need to be booted. But let's go over to Krish on this one. Krish, I know you've got some feelings.
Yeah, I know BJ. I haven't had any like personal interactions with him, but I watch all his content. He's a young kid trying to make it in the industry, so I respect that, obviously. But I think sometimes, it's the heat of the moment. And, when everything is going wrong, they're 1-8. They just let up 52 points. Obviously, Coach Mogan not happy. So I don't think BJ said that. I think someone in the section said that. I don't put anything past fans. At games sometimes people just go and talk shit. So I think another fan said it and he turned around and he pointed BJ out. I know for a fact Coach Moog watches and listens to everything. He's on social media. He's probably watching this show right now. I wouldn't be surprised. But, he has his eyes and ears open. So I think whoever said that, if that comment was made, I think, you got to know your role and you got to reassess why you're going to games. I've been to 57 out of 58 games. I've never once trash talked a player, a coach at a game. I've never. You can ask any teams we ever faced, man. Like, I never do that because I think it's just immature and just inappropriate. These coaches are out there, making maybe $10,000 a year to coach indoor football, and they're bringing a team to your community, and you're treating them like, shit. It's inappropriate. So I just think the whole situation is inappropriate. I know, certain fans want to pin it on Moog, Coach Moog. He sucks. No, I met Coach Moog after games. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met in this industry. So I think people need to reassess their stance on it, and you need to look at both sides and hear both sides out. That's my opinion.
TJ, what are your thoughts on this? And then we'll kind of move forward. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the ugly side of games like this, because obviously this stuff happens at the NFL level too. So just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it this morning.
It's rough. It's a fine line. It's one of those things where you see it in the NBA a lot too, because the fans are right on top of you. And players and fans always interacting negatively lately. Haven't been on the sidelines. Yeah, fans can definitely chatter. They definitely talk. But as a coach or a staff member of a team or player, anything, you have to do your best to ignore it. Now, in this case, saying something about the family, I can't really say anything negative about him because I probably would have done the same thing. That there's also a line with the fans, and that's what people have to remember. You can't be out of line. You can't personally attack somebody. It's a game. It's entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. Don't personally attack especially a man's family. That's like our biggest pride in life. So do I completely disagree with what he did given the reasoning? Absolutely not, because again, I'd be in the same situation as him. So I err more on the side of fans got to check themselves. And like he said in his statement, just because you buy a ticket doesn't mean it's open season. You go to watch a game, you go to have fun and enjoy it. Especially if you're on the winning side and you're talking smack like that to to the losing team. I think you got to look in the mirror and grow up, personally.
No, I think that's well said. I think there's a lot of lines that you don't cross when it comes to being a fan or, being involved with the sport in general, whether this was a player, a fan, a coach, it doesn't matter. What was said, assuming that this is accurate coming from, one person for the record. I've seen nobody actually corroborate what Coach Moog said. I tend to believe him just based off my personal interactions with Coach Mogensen. I don't think he's the type of guy that would make something up like this. If those comments are accurate and all of that actually happened as he says it did, I would have 100% reacted the same way he did. If not, gone over that wall and tried to handle it physically, to be completely honest with everybody. There's lines you don't cross, and talking about a man's family or anybody's family is a little ridiculous, especially when you're looking at it from a sports perspective. There's no need for this kind of stuff in the game. that's why we end up seeing games end in fights and stuff like that. Like that's not entertaining to me. We're talking about it because it's a big subject with indoor football right now, but at the same time, I'd rather watch the game, and not have the distractions on the sidelines and the negativity that surrounds some of these games sometimes. So, like I said, I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. It's just something that came up last night, so I wanted to get that in there because it's honestly sad to see. I really wish that players and coaches and everybody involved with these organizations didn't have to deal with stuff like that, but unfortunately, there are some people who are immature in the world. Like Krish said, I've also had interactions with the host of the Blizzcast that I don't think he was the one that said that. I do once again believe that it was said. I just don't think that he was the one who said it. And when you're in the heat of the moment, maybe you hear something come from a certain section when it was maybe from another section, so I have a hard time believing it was him, but again, that's my personal feelings on it. But moving on to the next piece of news, there's quite a bit of big transaction stuff coming out of the IFL this week, specifically a couple moves from Vegas. They released Makel Calhoun, defensive player of the week a couple times last year, had a really big season for them last season, and he has since signed with the Arizona Rattlers. So we'll go to TJ first on this one. What do you think about, first of all, Makel being released from Vegas and then him landing in Arizona?
Hey man, I'm kind of mad about it because Arizona just got better. He's a great player. I mean, like you said, defensive player of the week a few times last year. Yeah, it kind of surprised me. I definitely didn't expect to see that on the transaction wire. That's for sure.
Yeah, I actually reached out to Coach Davis after I saw this because I was surprised. He's a great player, and he was just kind of said, we're kind of stagnant. We needed a change, and we feel that he needed a change as well, and it was probably in the best interest of both parties. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits with Arizona and see where it goes from here. But definitely could be an interesting situation to follow. Krish, any quick thoughts on Makel Calhoun and or his replacement?
Yeah, I mean Cameron Bright, they signed. He's an NFL linebacker. He was in NFL camp with the Steelers. But with Makel, man, I'm surprised he didn't land in Jacksonville. He's from Clearwater, Florida. That's only 3 hours away from Jacksonville. So I thought that would be a great move, especially with the linebacker Hayden Hatcher being hurt. I was gonna expect them to go sign him, but Arizona, man, I mean they're loaded. They get him back. I mean it's another Infinity Stone. So I can't really be mad at them for making a big move. But for Vegas, I think sometimes I compare it to when we released Calvin Bundage, right? Calvin Bundage was the leader in tacklers when we released him. There's a lot of things behind the scenes people don't know, but on the outside it looks like, why would you make that move? I think stuff happens internally, and sometimes you got to make a change. So that's what it is.
Absolutely, and I was actually impressed by the replacement they brought in. I mean, Cameron Bright, he's a guy who's been with the Stampeders, I believe, for parts of 3 seasons, if I remember correctly. Played in a lot of games in the CFL. Was kind of a surprise when he got released in the first place, but now he's the replacement for Makel Calhoun. I think he fits the IFL style of play very well, and just another move by those Vegas Nighthawks. They're another one of the teams that's constantly one of the most talented on paper, and I'm excited to see what he can do for Vegas. But there was a couple other moves that caught a lot of people off guard, I think, in my opinion, and that were 2 big releases. We've got quarterback Caleb Barker, who started the season for the Sharks as the quarterback 1, and then you also have Ulrich Jones, kind of a really big veteran name in the IFL, being released by the San Antonio Gunslingers. So, TJ, what are your thoughts on the 2 releases here? And then we'll go to Krish.
I mean, Caleb Barker surprised me, that's for sure. with Jacksonville. I thought he was good uh, on the roster in depth. The gunslingers, I mean, personally, nothing really surprises me when you're not necessarily having the season that you wanted. You see a lot of different moves. Some are for monetary, others are maybe just to move a vet and bring in younger guys, and or have guys that are younger on your roster already move up and be given, see what they can do and acclimate them for next season.
That's fair. That's fair for sure. Krish, what are your thoughts on these two moves?
Right. I think both these moves are kind of shocking, obviously. For what I said last week, I think I made a comment about how signing Tyler Huff was a move for them. For me, that was them saying we want to move on from Caleb. He's done great for us, but we have a younger, faster, more energetic quarterback who's a local. Caleb is not from Jacksonville. So I wonder what the housing situation is. I know he's there living with his family. I wonder if it's they're cutting costs by releasing him. As far as, a guy like Jones, man, he's a great D tackle. I know for a fact he doesn't play for 250 and, stack of peanuts. So I think you got to make moves sometimes and, get younger guys who are hungry and ready to compete. And I think both those players, if they want to continue playing, can find homes at other high-level programs. So it's not the end of the world.
No, I completely agree from that perspective. I mean, if you're looking at, some players that can find another home and would like to continue, if they would like to continue playing, I think both of these guys are pretty high on that list. I mean, Ulrich Jones specifically, I would expect him to be landing somewhere fairly quickly. I'm actually surprised that it didn't happen immediately before this week, but it was kind of a midweek cut. So it hasn't really given him a lot of time to try and figure out a new home. So curious to see where both of these guys land. Caleb Barker, I would not be shocked by at all if he ends up retiring. He was out of the game, I believe, in 2023 after a pretty impressive 2022 season with the Naz Wranglers. He decided to step away because he had tried out for the XFL and did not get in. So he ended up deciding to try and move on, and then gets roped back into it by the Jacksonville Sharks a couple years later, and then ends up starting for them for basically a full season worth of games spread between 2 years. So interesting stretch to his career, but I think this could possibly be the end of the line for him unless he's just stuck and wants to keep going. But the next subject at hand, I thought these were two interesting moves as well, and TJ will just go straight to you on this one. I won't spend a ton of time talking about them, but Daymond Williams returns from Toronto Argonauts to re-sign with the Bay Area Panthers, and then now that Wheeling's season is over, Brandon Munoz from Wheeling University has rejoined the Sharks. He previously played there in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, anytime for Brandon Munoz, anytime you can get a guy who was already on your team, has a high motor, and he already knows the general system, it's already an A+ move. Uh, Daymond Williams, coming from spending some time in the CFL, coming back to the Bay Area Panthers. Rob Keefe always, he spoke highly of him when he left for the CFL, so it's not a surprise that he scooped him right back up. When he, became available and wanted to keep playing. So bring him back, and again, it's a guy who knows the system and has been there before. So I like both those moves.
I agree on both fronts. Krish, what are your thoughts on this one?
Obviously, Brandon Munoz, he made the decision to go to Wheeling before. He's from Wheeling. Obviously, that experiment completely failed. So he was one of the few bright spots on that team. I'm sorry, CJ, but I think, sometimes guys want to go back to where they feel comfortable. And I think, he's coming back to Jacksonville. In terms of Bay Area, I mean, that defense is stacked. That defense, in my opinion, the top 3 defense in the league. I know Daymond very well. He's a very good football player. So I think they're just loading up the dock for a championship run. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree when it comes to Daymond Williams. I mean, you don't just accidentally end up in the CFL. It's definitely not easy to get in any of these leagues. So, personally, think that he's a very highly talented player, and he's a guy who I'm sure Bay Area was very excited to be able to get an opportunity with. So this is kind of we're nearing the part of the season where guys who left for other opportunities might be deciding to come back due to their availability that they were not expecting. So, any other IFL subjects we have not touched on that either of you guys want to discuss before we move on? There really wasn't a lot of big news out of the IFL this week. Krish, any thoughts?
I mean, we did make a couple moves. Obviously, we released your favorite running back, Dominic Roberto. I'll just speak on that move for a second. It's obviously always hard to release a player that's done so much for you. But, obviously this is me just speaking on my opinion on it. Puka's our guy. I love Puka Williams. He's one of the best athletes I've seen come through here. And I've seen a lot of great football players. The country hasn't seen it yet, and they're about to see it real soon. And so Puka's our guy, man. We're fully behind him, and I'm so excited to watch him continue to grow. As far as Dom, I wish him the best of luck. I'm sure he'll find another home, but Puka's our guy, and I love Puka. So Stephen McBride, a receiver, we added. We released RJ Mobley. Obviously, difficult for me. I formed a personal relationship with RJ, but it's part of the business, and I look forward to seeing where RJ lands. And then for us, I think on the defensive side, we had a Smoke Monday, a DB from Auburn, all-conference SEC. 6 out of 8 starters for us on defense are all SEC guys. So, again, our defense is just becoming more dominant. And no one in the league, there are very few receivers that can run with Smoke. His vertical is insane. He played basketball in high school. He has almost like an 8-feet vertical. I'm really excited to see what Smoke Monday does for us. So, we're just loading up, too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And honestly, I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't add that to the list because his name, when it popped up and you had mentioned that Massachusetts had signed him, I was impressed. It's just another in the long list of moves that Massachusetts manages to pull off every year that, I didn't see coming. I never thought we would see Smoke Monday in an indoor football league. But I also had come to the realization that I didn't really think Puka Williams would be playing for an indoor football team. So, shout out to Massachusetts on that. It seems like they just managed to keep pulling guys right out of, the NFL, CFL, UFL cycle and bringing them in and building a very talented team all year, or every year. TJ, any other subjects that you wanted to touch on the IFL?
Nope, I'm good.
Awesome. So far, there's only been one game in the IFL this week, and that was the game last night, the Green Bay versus Iowa Barnstormers. This turned into a little bit of a rout. By the end of the game, was 52-32, Green Bay over Iowa. But transitioning over to AF1, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We got some couple great subjects, and one of them that I think will be pretty funny to discuss up front.
I'm just being myself, cool as can be. When I'm being myself, you wish you were me. It's so easy. Get out your own way. It's just so easy.
How many times a week? Like three, four times maybe. I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
All right. If you have not shared the stream, we really appreciate anybody who takes the time to go ahead and share this with their friends. Definitely helps out our process. Obviously gets us in front of some new viewers as well. So a lot to talk about in the AF1 this week as well, but I thought this would be a funny subject to start with. And sorry, TJ, it might hit close to home, but this is the side of Billings Outlaws owner Steven Titus's Maserati. You may have seen on Twitter there was a little bit of a deal agreed upon between Albany and Steven Titus that, if they lost to Albany this year, he would wrap his car with the Albany Firebird logo. And he stood by his word, and he did not try to skirt around the subject and put like a little tiny Firebird or anything like that on there. That thing is taking up the entire back door. So thought this was pretty funny. Obviously, I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, but I like this stuff outside of the game that is like extra gamesmanship, adds a little bit of a wrinkle to the game, which is fun. It's not going to hurt anybody. Obviously Titus is doing this in good nature, good spirit with Albany. So what are your guys' thoughts on these? I mean, on this specific situation and other things like this when teams kind of try and spice up the matchup a little bit. Let's go to TJ first. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Krish.
Yeah, no, I think it's good for the game. Obviously, I think it's healthy competition. The biggest thing for me, man, is Steven Titus is a man of his word. Tony O'Neill and Coach Red should take notes, right? Be a man of your word. Show up. And I love that I love Steven Titus, man. I think he gets a lot of flack for no reason. He's been great to me. He's been great to us. I'm a huge Steven Titus fan, and it's for this reason.
You're not wrong. The man did keep his word, so there's a lot to be said about that. TJ, what are your thoughts?
That is just disgusting. No, I'm just kidding. It's the fun side. Now, we talked about a little of the unfortunate side. Now this is the fun side. You make a friendly bet or wager and you honor it. Steven Titus, never afraid to go a little bit above and beyond, as we all know. But it's always, in a good way. So that, I think it's funny, and I think it's awesome that he posted the picture and showed that he did do it. Because I know some people were wondering, and he was like, guys, it takes a little while for a car to get wrapped. Don't worry, I'm going to get it done. So it's fun to see. It's good to see. And, man, I just really wish it was a Billings logo on somebody else's car, but hey, didn't get the job done. So
there's always next season, right? Well, actually, on that note, it might not be a next season. So, recently there's been some rumors kind of trickling out that there could be a potential sale of the Billings Outlaws, which caught me off guard. If I'm being honest, if there's one owner that not only do I not want to see leave, but that I didn't think would be leaving, it's Steven Titus. There was always the discussion that we've had over the past couple of weeks that maybe the team moves, but in no extent did I think that Titus would be out of the picture with the Billings Outlaws. And it still could end up that way. It still probably will end up that way if I'm giving you guys my feelings. But when I reached out to Titus about these rumors, these were his comments to me. So he said, there are groups in and out of Billings that are interested in buying the team, but nothing has come to fruition. We will see what happens. So again, this is my interpretation of what he said. So please don't, take it with a grain of salt. But in my mind, this reads like him saying that I'm not actively shopping my team, but I have been reached out to about this, the thought of potentially selling the team. Now, I would be curious, and I want to hear your guys' opinions on this, but what would a purchase of the Billings Outlaws look like financially? Are we talking $500,000? Are we talking $1 million? Are we talking 1.5 million? So if you're watching right now, drop your thoughts in the comments, no matter what platform you're watching on right now. Let us know what you think a team like the Billings Outlaws, an established name, a team that's got everything they need, in good working order. All those assets would be transferred with the sale, obviously, as well as the IP of the Billings Outlaws and, everything else they may own with the team. What would a purchase of that team look like? And let's go to TJ first on this one.
Yeah, I'm definitely going on the lower side of things. I'm probably saying around 500K. Just because when you buy the team, the following season, when, entry fees and league dues come up and stuff like that, as the new owner, you're still paying it. Just because you buy the team doesn't mean you get the auto buy-in. So, there's still a lot more expenses that go into it. So I would probably say around half a mil. Just, also on the fact of, arena and indoor football isn't where it was 15, 20 years ago either. So, you have to take a look at that. A lot of people, unfortunately, especially for us, because we're fanatics of it, a lot of people don't watch it or honestly even know that certain leagues are even going on, you know. So I think that hurts the value of it. But I would list it at half a mil, just because it is still a storied franchise, a team that's been around for a while, and they are coming off a championship last year. So, uh, I wouldn't go too crazy, but yeah, 500K would be my guess.
I'd be curious, and again, I don't want to insert too many of my thoughts here, but I'd be curious if this is a group trying to keep the team in Billings. Like if they're just like, hey, what would it take to buy the team from you, Steve? Like, what would you sell us the team for, just to see, if they could keep the team in Billings? But Krish, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think a purchase would look like financially?
Right. I think Steve and Titus's relationship with the Metro in Billings is going to play a huge part in this. Honestly, I could see him pricing up. I could see him saying 700,000, 800,000. Give me the max amount of money for the franchise. Back-to-back IFL champions. You know what I mean? AFL champion. Like, don't you want the most amount of money for a historic franchise like that? And you could say it's a main staple brand in indoor arena football at this point. So I think he's going to try to get the most amount of money for it.
I would agree as well. And Wookie says, I think he just gave a go to hell price, quote unquote, with no intent on selling. If someone did actually produce that number, then good, he can use it on another team somewhere else in a new city. But no, I'm with you guys. I think this is one of the teams that does have some latent value, obviously, because the Billings Outlaws name is obviously something that is sought after. But at the same time, I would be surprised to see a sale of the Billings Outlaws go down. Now, again, does a group reach out, offer a stupid amount of money, and tell him, that we want to keep the team in Billings, and he sees that as best case scenario, and then he moves on to something else? I guess maybe there's a chance, but I just don't see it personally. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Billings Outlaws. All this stuff coming out is certainly keeping them very interesting franchise to continue talking about. And it also goes one step further, because I'm going to add this little caveat to this subject. But this comment came out from Steven Titus on Twitter the other day. Shout out to Arena Football One Anonymous who found this comment. But the old owners of the SaberCats will actually be at the game Monday night. Now, we might do some deductive reasoning and be like, why would they be at the game Monday night? Well, who does Billings play? Nashville Cats. Who coaches the Nashville Cats? Famed former SaberCat coach Darren Arbett, who also coaches the Billings Outlaws. Former defensive coordinator for the SaberCats, Cedric Walker. So there is that reason that they could potentially be there. But the question is, if you're still this close to arena football, you're still attending games, you're still very involved in the sport, at what point, and again, I don't know where their financial situation lies as a family, as a business, but at what point do you just go back into ownership, purchase a minority stake in an AF1 team, or, perhaps you get involved with Stockton, or maybe you're one of the groups that wants to purchase Billings. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Let's go to Krish first.
I think this is definitely explore. They're trying to explore old ownership group, and I think for future markets. Obviously, California is a very expensive place to operate a team. I would say it's one of the most expensive places in the country. So this could be a group for outside of California. But it's good. I really hope that we have a really good game. I think we're going to have a great game, and this is the great game to sell them back on the product. Hey, this is what arena football is. It's still around. We still want your investment, and it's still a great product. And so this is a great opportunity for AF1, and I think, a lot of people will overlook this, but I think this can be a big thing for the league as a whole.
I would agree. They were, obviously very solid owners. The SaberCats were around for many years. They definitely belonged as one of the franchises in the AFL. They were never one of the teams that didn't have everything they needed and stuff like that. So I think this is a plus for sure. Wiki says get that group involved with Stockton ASAP. TJ, what are your thoughts on the Fry family potentially becoming involved in the AF1?
Man, you got me kind of fanboying out, talking about the SaberCats, bringing back a lot of memories, watching some good games. But, yeah, the multiple connections, that's a reason to go. But I don't think I don't think Steven Titus would have made such a big deal about it. But, the timing of it all is just really ironic, almost planned, it feels like. But if they're coming back to potentially buy in to a team or maybe even bring back the SaberCats, the last time they were owners of an active team, they won an arena bowl and then they took the team out the off season, citing, different views and different visions than the league at the time, the second iteration of the AFL. So if they are interested in either joining ownership, it's going to make that ownership a lot stronger. It's going to bring a lot of good experience, a lot of championship experience, and long running stability styled experience. So it's going to be good either way. Or if they want to bring back, say, the SaberCats, or bring back or just bring another team period in for next season, it'll be nothing but good for the AF1, because they were, like you said already, a very solid ownership group for the AFL for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the most important fact of them potentially being owners again. They know what they're getting into. You know what I mean? Like, it's not there's no mystery for them. They've been there, done that. The only difference is, costs have changed obviously over the years, but they know everything it takes to run a successful franchise, what it takes to bring in some of the best coaching staffs that you could possibly ask for, and what it took to pay for the players back in the day. So it might actually be realistically cheaper overall for them to operate now than at one point in the AFL, when we're talking some guys are making six figures. So definitely would be interested to hear exactly how they fit into the equation. But I thought those comments by Steven Titus were very interesting. I had heard from some other people that they had been at some Nashville games previously. So that's another thing to consider here. But
it would be crazy to see Darren Arbette. This is my crazy thing. Darren Arbette goes back to San Jose, and Coach Gary Thomas is the next head coach of the Nashville Cats. I could see that happening. That would be amazing.
Hey, I mean, I guess anything's possible, but it would take a lot, obviously, bringing back a franchise from the dead, like the SaberCats in one of the most expensive states in terms of workman's comp. That could be tough. But hey, I mean, I would love to see the SaberCats brand come back. I mean, as TJ was saying earlier, one of the best brands that came out of the old AFL. They were always competitive, always talented. So definitely would love to see them come back. Trey, I'm not ignoring your comments, buddy. We will get to the IFL predictions here shortly. Just wanted to let you know a couple more topics to cover overall in the leagues. We do predictions at the end. We will also give you some betting advice, take it or leave it. But I happen to know both these guys on the show right now with me. They tend to win a lot of bets every week. So just saying, probably good advice to take. But there's one more piece of AF1 news, or a couple more pieces, I guess. One I do not have a graphic for, and that was that Malik Henry was actually ejected in this previous game against, was it Oregon? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, against Oregon, he threw a punch at another player, and Malik has not come out and said what caused him to do that. I have talked to Malik several times. He is a very calm individual. So I think it would take quite a bit for him to get fired up enough to do this. So, I would just give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of that. I'm sure it was something similar to the Coach Mogensen situation where something crazy was said. But what are your thoughts on this, TJ?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was shocked because I had gotten up from the game to go do something real quick, come back and hear them talking about it. And I was just like, what happened? Like, because honestly, if you were a Billings fan, the Oregon game was like a dream and everything was going great. It ended up being, I didn't think they still had that kind of performance in them, to be honest with you. And then as soon as that happened, I was like, oh no, here we go. Here's the cliffhanger now. But they just ended up continuing to take care of business in that game. It was extremely out of character. Krish, I believe, we did an interview with him. We've had him on the network before. He's always been a very well-spoken and well-thought-out person. So I don't know exactly what happened. I would like to hear, his side of the story, not just to hear his side, but hear something that, from an internal standpoint of what went down to lead to that moment. Because again, that was really out of character for him, and it's so much that normally when you see that kind of stuff, you're just like, get him out of here. But for me, it's like, what happened to get him to that point? Just like we were talking about before with Coach. Because he's not usually like that, so that surprised me.
Yeah, and that's my thought process as well. And I mean, I understand you have to have a standard. You have to eject the players when something like this happens. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? You have to understand that you can't just let something like that go because it's probably just going to bubble over again later on in the game. But at the same time, like I said before, I've interacted with Malik several times. In fact, he very recently was not thrilled with some stuff that we said about him and his situation with Darius Prince. He handled that situation, which was private, by the way, private conversation, very professionally. So again, these are just my interactions with a guy that I've known for a couple years now, who I met on positive terms, all of that. But at the same time, he's just never struck me as that type of individual. And I think that something crazy had to have been said for him to react like that. But Krish, you know Malik a little bit better than I do. What are your thoughts on this situation? And again, we don't have to spend too much time on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole country should know how I feel about Malik Henry, man. High character, individual leader, everything you want in a quarterback and a player. So obviously what happened was uncharacteristic for him, and I think, it was disappointing. It was disappointing to see that, he was kind of the fall guy. I mean, I like Spruce. I think he's a great player, but he should have been ejected too, right? And they're always going to blame it on Malik. And so I think he was kind of targeted in a way. I don't, but again, I understand, like, he did throw a punch, but it was out of self-defense. He's not going to be pushed around. He's never been pushed around. You know what I mean? Like, he's never going to be pushed around. And so that type of quarterback he is. So I'm proud of him for standing up for himself, and he's going to ball out, and he's about to explode the Nashville Cats on Monday night. So get ready.
We will do a little bit more digging on this and get both sides of the story because I'm curious what happened. Like I said, just very out of character for Henry. I don't think he's that type of guy. So Josh Cox doubling. I should say this is like quadrupling down on the fact that he thinks Salina is going to win out. Salina plus 4.5 is a lock. We'll talk about betting a little bit more later, but I'll keep that message starred. And also make sure I take a screenshot for later. No particular reason or anything.
I don't know. I want to say that about Salina, though, real quick. If Coach Thomas beats Salina this week and Billings wins, that means Southwest has clinched that second seed. He's going to let Coach O win next week because he's a good guy. Watch. I'm telling you, they're going to rest all their starters. The starters are going to be going like half-assed. I've seen it before. Coach Thomas is going to let Coach O win this game next week. So
I don't think you necessarily let anybody win the game, but I will say that playoff seeding technically could be decided this weekend. It would take some help from Billings, but Southwest Kansas could lock up the 2nd seed. I believe if they win against Salina, that makes them 8-3 with 1 game to play. The absolute worst they could be is 8-4, which is a slightly better win percentage than 6-10 or 6-4. I'm sorry, out of 10 games for Nashville. So if Billings beats Nashville tonight and Southwest Kansas wins, then you also would have the 2nd seed locked up, 2nd and 3rd seed, because I think Nashville at this point is the lock to be the 3rd seed. It's either Southwest Kansas or Nashville. There's also a little bit of a subject that I wanted to touch on involving Southwest Kansas here, and then we'll also touch on one last thing with the AF1 before we move on. But a couple players have returned to their former teams for the 2025 stretch run here. The former starting quarterback for the Southwest Kansas Storm is back as the quarterback 2, I understand. He will sit behind Jalen Morton. I would imagine see some time, if the game gets out of hand either direction over the next 2 weeks. And like Krish said, he might actually just start, the final game of the season. We'll see how things go. And then on the Albany side, you've got center Sean Brown, previously from the UFL. I think he was waiting out an opportunity with the UFL, and then ultimately it never came, so he decided to come back. So what are you guys' thoughts on these moves? Again, doesn't have to be a huge analysis. Just give us your quick thoughts, and we'll move on.
Yeah, I think for, Matt Struck, obviously he made the decision to go to Japan before the season. And I think it says a lot about Coach Thomas. He's letting players, repay for their sins. And so he's letting Matt Struck come back, apologize for his sins of leaving the team before the season. He's going to have to learn to be the backup, and it's going to be difficult for him, right? But I think it's just, you keep the door open. You keep a positive relationship with players. Sometimes player agents are always looking for the next best opportunity, and it might not be the best opportunity. So I applaud Coach Thomas for keeping the door open for Matt Struck, because I know if that was my player, that door would be shut all the way. You're not coming back after how you did me. So that's my opinion on it. But Sean Brown, I love Sean. I know him personally. Great center. That Albany and Coach Ware is evil, man. He's stacking the deck. He wants all the best players in the house. And I guarantee you, with this move right here, this solidifies them as champions of the AF1. So
we shall see. We shall see for sure. A lot more football left to be played. Billings could win against Nashville tonight, go out, finish the season with the win, end up the 4 seed, facing Albany, beat them in Albany, and move into the championship game. So just saying, anything is possible still to this point. Just throwing that out there. TJ, what are your thoughts on these 2 moves, and then we'll move on.
Again, man, the rich get richer. 2 of the better teams, 2 of the best teams, in my opinion, in the league. Bringing back familiar faces. I agree. I can agree with Krish on the mindset, but for me personally, it's, hey man, these 2 guys left. They tried to further themselves. That's the point of arena football. It's a platform to better yourself and give yourself opportunities. They tried to go and get better opportunities, but unfortunately they couldn't stick. So now they're back with teams that, once again, they've already been in the system. They already know how to do it. And they were both solid players for each of their respective teams last year in the AFL. So, just again, the rich get richer, and it is great timing for the Storm, and for the Storm especially, who again probably will be playing backups next week.
We shall see. I do want to say this about Sean Brown. I have a very strong inkling that if he ever wants to get into coaching, that it will be right there in Albany with Coach Daymond Ware. I had Sean on a while back. Man, it's been a while. So I kind of kept in touch with him throughout his career up to this point. And after he was released by the UFL prior to the 2024 season, he let me know that his first call and vice versa was Damon Ware. And Damon Ware immediately offered him a contract and told him, when you're ready to come, it'll be there on the table for you. And I think it was probably the similar situation this year. And that just goes to show you how they feel about each other. First of all, Sean had explicitly told me he's the only coach I would ever play for indoors at this point. He's like, I've been through, I think he's eight seasons, if I remember correctly at the time. He's like, I just have a previous relationship with him from earlier in my career. And he was like, I couldn't see playing for anybody else indoors. So, I could see a very real scenario playing out where he ends up going back to Albany as a coach in the near future when he decides to hang it up. For Southwest Kansas, I think this comes about because a couple weeks ago, Jalen Morton signed with the UFL. That interest has not, I'm sure, just died. Obviously, we still see Birmingham having issues with their quarterback injuries. Alex Mugu just went back on injured reserve again. So I think this is a smart insurance policy. I mean, what better backup to have on what hopefully will be a deep playoff run than the guy who started for you last year in the playoffs? Honestly, I think this is a great move for the team, and I think it's really just a great move overall for the organization. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to hit a quick commercial break. TJ needs to get out of here fairly soon, so we're going to hit a commercial break. We're going to come back. We'll do a betting segment, and then we will move right into the NAL segment after that, and it looks like we might have Coach B here with us now as well. So give us just a moment, and we'll be back with this betting segment.
I'm just being myself, cool as can be. When I'm being myself, you wish you were me. It's so easy. Get out your own way. It's just so easy.
All right, as you can tell, we have DraftKings pulled up here so we can talk about the IFL first, and we'll go ahead and go to TJ first on this one. TJ, what are your locks of the week when it comes to the IFL betting?
Well, locks. Tell you what, if my phone loads, I actually put my money where my mouth was this week, and I put in an epic parlay. All money line bets. I picked Green Bay last night, so that's already a win in that column. I also put in my parlay Quad City, Jacksonville, Fisher's Freight in a pick'em, Bay Area Panthers, San Diego Strike Force, and to round out the weekend in the IFL, Vegas Nighthawks.
All right, some high odds picks there across the board. I like it. Krish, what are your picks on the IFL?
Just give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, so first of all, I don't know why we don't have a spread. And again, it's the league disrespecting us and throwing us to the side by not putting a spread on our game. But, Dixie Lou knows what time it is, right? I hope the whole indie team knows what time it is. And Chad, too. Chad, I hope you have your phone out recording a ton of videos about this massacre. It's about to be murder tonight. All right, so give me us by 10 points. I like us by 10 to 15. And give me the under. Arizona's beating Jacksonville, 1.5, -1.5 for Arizona. Quad City and San Antonio. San Antonio plus 5.5. Las Vegas and Northern Arizona. This is gonna be a fun one to watch. But I I like Las Vegas -6.5. I think Jaden Delora is balling his ass off. I think he's gonna ball out against Naz. And then San Diego and Tucson. Give me San Diego -2.5. Billy Bath takes another loss. So
All right. Well, we're going to transition over real quick to the AF1. Once again, this is on Better Edge, sorry. And I just want to make it very clear this is a peer-to-peer betting system, so it is not against a house account. That is significant to keep in mind, because if there are $0 worth of orders, as it says right here on this game, you have nothing to bet against. So there is virtually no reason to place a bet. Again, that's just my opinion. I'm hoping that they find a better way to do betting for the AF1 next season. But TJ, we'll go to you first on this one. What are your thoughts on this game?
Honestly, Salina's been playing really tough lately, but I got to go with Southwest Kansas. You can't go against, again, I've been saying, them and Albany, top two teams for the past couple weeks now, so I can't go against them now. Also, as a Billings fan, kind of need them to beat Salina to increase their chances. So, but no, I mean, honestly, my gut says Southwest Kansas. Honestly, I would take the spread -4.5. I think they win by probably 10 to 14 points.
Wow. Bold prediction, my friend. I have Southwest Kansas winning this game. I mean, they're at home, so that's another big part of this. But there is a little bit of a caveat to this game, which we did not mention earlier, and I guess I'll get to now. This game is available tonight. There's a reason why it says Saturday. They are playing the game on Saturday. It will be available tonight in some regions on Evergreen Now Live. In some regions, it will air tomorrow on Vice. So if you're the type of person that does not want to see the results to a game before you watch it, you might want to stay away from social media tonight after the game, because I'm sure that it will get out exactly what happened. And I'm sure there will be several people who cover indoor arena football, much like us, that will be posting about it tonight. So just keep that in mind. Some regions can see it live. Other regions will have to wait for a tape delay. I'm sure there are going to be people that are going to blast this. This is part of working with the TV network. As much as I hate to say it, if they've got something that's going to draw better for them, they're not going to open up a slot on a night that they were not prepared to have a slot, for an arena football league. As much as I hate to say it, we're just not at that point yet. Do I think we can get back there? Absolutely, I do. But that's just not the case right now. So, this is a situation where this game is on Saturday night. The teams didn't want to move it, obviously, because of ticket sales and various other reasons, travel, all of that. And then Vice didn't have a slot on Saturday. So it is what it is. But what are your thoughts, TJ, on this game? Krish, on this game, and then we'll move on.
I mean, I picked against Coach Thomas all season and your boys, but I feel like the team chemistry for Southwest Kansas is at an all-time high. I like Salina. They have their offensive line and must improve since week 1, but I feel like Southwest Kansas is going to knock off Salina. Give me Southwest Kansas by 5. Coach Thomas will take down Coach O. He wants to beat Coach O. He wants revenge, and I believe that he will do that. So give me Southwest Kansas by 5 points.
All right, sticking with you, Krish. Moving on to the Oregon and Corpus Christi game. This game actually might be so ugly that it's fun to watch. So, Krish, what are your thoughts on this one?
Okay, so a lot of people in the industry-wide, have this conception of Corpus Christi that they've quit, they're out, they're tired. Coach J.A. Anderson is an amazing football coach. What he's been able to do with that program, despite everything going on, he is an amazing coach, and I hope bigger program next year take a look at him. Big time programs, because he deserves to be coaching the absolute best athletes in the world. Coach Jones and his boys have had a little bit of a, pit stop. I don't believe they'll be able to rebound. Dalton Cole is the Jameis Winston of indoor arena football. And so I like Corpus Christi. I think their defense is going to come out hard. They're going to, must improve. They have some new pieces. They have 2 out of 3 new DBs, 1 new D lineman, one of our former DBs, Donnie Lewis, D. Lou, number 3. So I'm excited to see what he's capable of. He'll be guarding Maurice Ashley in the slot. So that will be a great matchup to watch. But no, give me Corpus Christi to win this game. Money line plus 5.5, and plus 216. I'm going Corpus Christi all the way.
Very nice. TJ, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think you put it right, man. It might be so bad it's good. But I got to go with Oregon. They've been playing the whole season without having to completely unload their roster at a certain point of the season. So, you just got to go with continuity. I'm going to go with Oregon. I would go money line, though. It's probably going to be a tight game, but I think Oregon's going to edge Corpus Christi out.
Fair enough. TJ, I know you got to get out of here, man. I really appreciate your time today. Hope you have a great rest of your day and you enjoy the day of football, and I'll catch you next week, man.
Thanks. Thank you for having me on, as always. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And I'm going to miss the NAL segment, but you know what? I only have one thing to say anyway. Go Beef.
Well, that's one of the topics
week.
We'll definitely be talking about for sure. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Thanks, you too. See you guys.
Talk to you later. All right, Krish also has to jump off. He's at a wedding.
No, I can actually I can stay for like 2 or 3 more minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Because I have some NAL thoughts I want to get to as well. I know people are hungry.
All right, and we're also going to welcome on Coach B. How's it going, Coach B? Thank you for joining us again today.
Good morning, fellas. Good morning.
Definitely. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I was about to be up here by myself in a minute, so
no,
really
I got
appreciate
you
jumping on.
I got you, Sam. I got you.
Nobody wants to hear me drone on about the same thing all the time, so definitely need somebody else's opinions here. But we're going to hit a quick commercial, and then we'll be right back. Also, if I haven't said it already, make sure to check out HoneyStinger. The link is in the description. That is TJ's sponsor. Helps him, support his little one. So definitely check them out and use his code for us.
SeatGeek is the ticketing app for fans like Boomstick Lady. No free throw is safe from the roar of her sticks. SeatGeek helps her find a seat in the direct eye line of the shooter so she can sit where her boomsticks make the biggest boom. Everybody okay? SeatGeek handles the tickets to sports, concerts, and more, so fans can...
This is Current. It's the card my parents used to pay me for mowing the lawn, running errands, and doing well in school.
Oh, wow.
This is the card I used when we got the idea to make our own clothes. And we spread the word, drove downtown, and sold everything we made. This is the card I use to do the things that really matter. This is Current. Visit current.com and download the app for free today.
All
I
right,
actually like that current.com. That commercial might have got me a car for my kids.
There you go. We'll check it out with our code, and I believe you get $50 for signing up and putting a direct deposit in there, if I remember correctly.
Oh, shit, okay.
But yeah, definitely one of our sponsors. I use it for all of my banking for the network, so definitely can tell you from experience it's easy to use. But Krish, I'll let you kick it off, buddy. Where do you want to start in the NAL?
Yeah, Omaha and Colorado. I know a lot of other industry professionals have their opinion on this game, but just know, Coach Negron, obviously that's someone I consider, family. And so I know what he's made of, and I know he's made for this moment. I know how much he wants to win a championship for him, his family, his community, and most importantly, his team. Coach Negron is someone, he doesn't think about himself. He thinks about others. And I promise you, that's going to be ego any day of the week. Coach Shaw is a great football coach, but his team does not have the emotional control to go into Omaha and beat Omaha. Give me Coach Negron by 10 to 14 points. This defense will ball out. Andre Sale had never won a playoff game. That's going to stay the same. Fred Shaw had never won a playoff game. That would stay the same. I like the Omaha Beef and Tommy Armstrong and Coach Negron. That's a deadly duo. I was telling someone the other day, I said if Coach Negron started with this team, I can imagine how dominant this team would be from the beginning of the season to the end. They would be undefeated. You know that game that Chris Reynolds showed up with crutches? He would have been in a stretcher by the end of the game if Coach Negron was coaching. Okay, so that's what's going to happen to Fred Shaw tonight. Give me Coach Negron, 10 to 14 points. Let's go, Beef.
All right. Krish, the new Beef fan. It's every new team every week. But yeah, playoffs.
I mean, Ricky said I could be a Beef fan any day of the week. He just said, like, you know, when Coach Negron moved over, he gave me permission. He gave me his blessing to come over and be a Beef fan. So as much as it's gonna hurt me to see, you know, Matt Patton with a trophy and celebrating, I just know I need to put, you know, my ego aside and be happy for the community and Coach Negron. Coach Negron is all that matters to me. So I want to see him win a championship. That's like me winning a championship.
All I'm going to say is Matt's a good guy, so I'm glad that he likes a team that allows him to be a part of it like the Beef do. So Matt's a great guy. No shade to him, just so we're all clear. Matt's a friend of mine. Will always stay that way. So anyway, playoffs are coming back to the Slaughterhouse due to the win, the very close, tight win, might I add, against Colorado in Denver last week. Omaha beat Colorado. I believe it was 35-33, if I remember correctly. And that's considering Colorado started their backup quarterback, Khalil Trotman, former Jersey Bearcat, actually. Ironic that I played that intro earlier. Coach B, what are your thoughts on Omaha earning home field advantage and in the playoffs? How big is that specifically for them who have the support that they do?
You go to the orange field, it's always going to be a problem. That's huge for them. I think that was just a little icing on the cake that they needed to get over the hump, because, you know, they was battling, trying to find their identity since Negron came. Adding Tommy, adding Chris Perry, mixing Tommy with Lorenzo. That gives you a 1-2 punch in the lead that nobody else has. And I'm just to reiterate what Sam said, Matt, I respect the hell out of Matt, because Matt, no matter what, don't waver. He let us know who his team is, who he rooting for, and he a Beef fan no matter what, thick and thin, through and through. So I respect that, because he, from the jump, he's gonna always tell you it's the Beef.
Absolutely. And I'm sure at some point, you know, all good things come to an end. So at some point he'll have to deal with losing. And I am 100% positive he will 100% be invested in defending the Beef still to that day. That dude is as dedicated as it gets. So there is that too, for sure.
On the win, though, I think I'm going with the Beef. I think they pull it out. Fred Shaw, I don't think he's ready for this type of game. Beef thrive on this. When they get in the playoffs, this is where they fuel come in. So I think this is really they niche. So I just think Shaw needs a little bit more firepower. He needs more coaches. He needs a little bit more players to help him out, and it'll go from there.
Absolutely.
And I also want to include one thing. I remember when Fred Shaw took a shot at my rankings in the offseason. He said an apple from a tree that has no bearing. Coach Shaw, tonight that tree is going to be in your nightmares. Give me Coach Negron by 10 to 14 points.
I definitely think the home field advantage is very crucial in this playoff run, because I think if this game was in Denver, I think it might be a different game. But that's neither here nor there, because it didn't happen. So I'm not quite sure who made the decision to sit Andre Sale in the final game of the season. You know, when you could have earned home field advantage. I mean, that was from Rickie's mouth last week. So I'm not sure why you do that personally, but I'm not the coach. So I'm sure there was a good reason why Coach Shaw decided to opt to do that. I would not be surprised at all if Colorado won this game. I will throw that out there, but I expect Omaha to win, because if anybody has a true home field advantage in indoor football, it is the Omaha Beef. That crowd's going to be loud. They're going to be ringing those cowbells. They're definitely be getting in the head of the players on the Colorado Spartans any way they possibly can, talking smack, doing all of the big stuff. So Hopefully this ends a clean game. There's no fighting. We don't have anything, any players going after fans or anything like that. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a great game. Definitely one I recommend you tuning into. Those teams are very evenly matched and very solid matchup for each other. Next big story here is the story from Amarillo. There is a team coming back to Amarillo. The natural thought, and I'll get to the comments here in a minute, would be that they're joining the NAL, right? They were last in the NAL, earlier this season when they decided to fold. But there were some comments in here and in some other interviews they've done where it says arena football is really such a nice market that for it to be successful. So they also said arena. So that has opened some speculation that they could be headed to the AF1. I mean, if this is a new team, there's nothing stopping them. But I would be surprised if they end up in the AF1. But Coach B, what are your thoughts on this?
Only reason I say AF1 because Leif Curtis. When he had the West Texas Warbirds down there, his whole goal was AF1. That's why they wanted to do this. So I think Amarillo is a nice town, a little bit bigger than Corpus. So they would fit. But only thing that scares me about that is that town been burned by other previous teams from the AIF, the NAL. So you're gonna have to do some good marketing and PR down there to get people on board, get the town back involved and believe in what you're doing. So it's up to them, the ownership group. They're gonna have to spend some money to get some money. I know that.
Absolutely, it's going to be a very interesting time heading into 2026. I think we could see some realignment go on, between some of these leagues. I could see some teams jumping from one league to another. We'll save that for another episode, but Amarillo coming back under stable ownership is a good thing for everybody involved. I mean, obviously, if it's the Dusters name that comes back, they are obviously an established AFL brand, so kind of a legacy name, which I would love to see come back to the AF1. But I think they'll probably be in the NAL. That's just a hunch, but we'll see how things go. But their comments here, it's exciting to bring it back for the fans. It's going to be bigger than us. So we're very confident and positive come March. We're going to pack out the arena. We're going to get involved in the community, and everyone is going to have a fun time here, said Derek Urias, co-owner of the new arena football team. Our main focus is the family who has, the kids from 3 to 15 years old, said Leif Curtis, president, co-owner of the new arena football team. We want the families to be able to come here, and we want the families to be able to afford to come here. Arena football is really such a nice market that for it to be successful, it needs to be local ownership, said Curtis. We're investing in the community, and now that we're investing in the community, we're going to go out and ask that community to invest in us. We also know coming in that there's a mess to pick up and clean up right here. We know there were a lot of burnt bridges, says Urias. We're focused on the future and the positivity of bringing it back. So being local, being here, bringing it back, it's an awesome feeling. The ownership group, CLD Enterprises, is confident that once football returns in March of 2026, they'll not only have an entertaining product on the field, but the league is looking to expand in the future by adding more teams. The newly formed ownership group is planning to hold a press conference in the weeks ahead to announce the team's name and the league they will be joining. So watch out for that. It should be coming up soon. Wookie doubles down on what Coach B said. Leif Curtis has me thinking it's AF1. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And honestly, I think the AF1 would probably welcome them in. Obviously that would be, an added benefit for Corpus Christi there. And obviously that would make it a little bit cheaper for Amarillo to operate in terms of, the travel associated. Any other thoughts on this, Coach?
Yeah, I think like with that statement right there, that just lets you know they already doing the right things. They're doing everything they need to get in place. They're doing everything they need to build it up. But I'll piggyback off what you said. I think the name they need to use is the Dusters. You know what I mean? That will bring the old fans out, some of the new fans, and get them away from that old name that they had. So it would help them with marketing. Because that old name still has a NAL AIF taste to it. So you come back with the Dusters, it give you a new brand, a new feel, something ain't nothing actually new. It's just rebranding back to the old original you. And if Leaf watching, I want that job. Call me.
All right, all right. Well, Leaf Curtis, if you know if you're open to coaching suggestions or resumes, you might have one already hitting your email. So,
Oh yeah, I'll second this too. Like Coach B is more than ready to lead a team. You know, I watched him behind the scenes, and a lot of people don't understand like those meetings that he ran in the off season. I've been a part of many meetings. You know, in football, he ran the most organized ship I've ever seen. Man, we were meeting in November. Guys were required to show up. If you want to run a disciplined ship, hire Coach B. He'll run through the league. It won't even be close. I know Coach Irv Strobing, Coach Fred Shaw, they hate to see that coming. But just hire Coach B, man. For real.
Well, that's if they end up in the NAL. But only one real topic left to discuss, and it's going to be a short one for the NAL. This past weekend, Wheeling signed a new quarterback for the last week of the year. His name is CJ Ogbonna. He went to Buffalo University. He's actually a really good player and somebody that I was excited to see in arena football because I think it would fit his skill set. Indoor football. It would fit his skill set well. He's a mobile guy, dual threat player, but ultimately he did not report to Wheeling. I had heard from somebody close to the situation that his agent was being difficult in the scenario. Probably was a situation where CJ did not want to play arena football as of yet, but was probably in his best interest. I personally think that the players that are involved in these situations need to realize where they stand. If you don't have NFL calls coming, they probably are not just going to spring up overnight, and you need to understand what your next options are, which is typically the CFL. Arena football can prepare you for the CFL style with the high motion. So I personally think that it would have been in his best interest to go play the one game, get out of that game, hopefully healthy, and then start marketing himself to CFL teams with a little bit of experience with the high motion. But Coach, I mean, I'm sure you've been through this scenario a couple times. You offer a player, they say they're going to come. How do you handle when a player ultimately tells you that they're not coming to a team?
I haven't had that happen yet. I've dealt with some agents who thought last year when we jumped to the AFL that it was fake, and they were scared to let their players join. But every player I talk to, Chris can attest to that. When I get you on the phone, I'm probably the best recruiter out here. You're gonna want to come and play with Coach B. Now dealing with agents, that's a different story. So it could have been something with his agent. His agent wanted more than CJ wanted. His agent, I've dealt with agents who does that. I'm talking to a player, me and the player agree on something, then the agent come back with something different, and the player didn't even know about. So it go hand in hand. And when you deal with something like that, you got to make sure you on the phone with both parties at the same time, the agent and the player, so nothing is missed.
Good piece of advice, I feel. Go ahead, Krish. I know you got some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, this is my last thought before I have to head out. I think players need to be smart with what agents they sign with. This was a great opportunity for Q to come in and prove himself and get looks at higher levels. But now he's sitting on the couch, right? And that's an uncomfortable place to be. So, one guy I can use as a specific example was Leon O'Neal. I remember, Coach, when I sent you Leon O'Neal, you got on the phone with him and you said Leon not about money. He's about opportunity. And that's why he's about to go to the NFL. So it's about how you make what you make of it. And that's what agents have to be teaching players. My last thought, man, I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to a great week of indoor football. Let's go Pirates. And tonight, the Duluth Harbor Monsters are about to get exposed. Kansas City goes by 5. No Coach O'Neal. I'm sorry, Coach Tony. Your boys are going down tonight. Give me KC by 5, Hot Springs by 10, and EU Claire by 6. See you guys next week. Appreciate it.
All right. See you next week, Krish. And I guess that's a perfect transition to the next subject line, which is Tony O'Neill, coach for the Duluth Harbor Monsters, was fined and suspended for 2 games due to a conduct infraction after the game. I guess it was related to a video that was posted. It was not very becoming of a head coach in the league. So Coach B, I mean, you're with the GOATs. You guys are about to play Duluth. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a bummer. And it's crazy because he was just making a Facebook Live the day after the game, expressing himself, and he got in trouble for it. So now it's to the point what you can and what you can't say, or how can you say it. Everybody is determining what you do. When you're a good coach, or you're a coach that's really yourself, and you got a certain vibe to you, you can see that certain leagues turn you down. They want you to run the way they want you to run. And that's a perfect example of that right there. But I do think it's a disadvantage for Duluth because you got your general out, your man who leads the ship. And that's a big move right there. So I want to see how this folds out tonight.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I spoke briefly with Deron Clark, the offensive coordinator for Duluth, and in my mind, he would be the next man up, right? You know, former head coach of the Cedar Rapids River Kings, who we'll talk about here shortly, and then also he's the offensive coordinator. He's kind of the right-hand man of the head coach. But it sounds like it's going to be all hands on deck for this situation. I think it's kind of like a coaching by committee situation where the entire staff is going to kind of weigh in on decisions together. So it'll be interesting to see how it works. But I think they've got a very good staff there, a veteran staff. So I think they'll be all right, and they're still going to be competitive in this game. But it is definitely a disadvantage for Duluth, as you mentioned, because you don't have that centering voice, the one voice that stands out above all of the assistant coaches and coordinators. So definitely interested to see how this works out tonight. But the final topic of today's show is the rebranding of the Cedar Rapids River Kings. They rebrand as the Cedar Rapids Titans. Real quick breakdown of what they've said here. You see it. In a landmark announcement that marks a new era for professional indoor football in eastern Iowa, Rick Kranz, general manager and head coach of the Cedar Rapids River Kings, has announced a full rebrand of the franchise. Effective immediately, the team will return to its roots and now be known as the Cedar Rapids Titans. I feel like this was the right move for the team, the community, and the fans, said Kranz. The Titans is where it all started, and I felt like we should go back to the roots. The name change is more than symbolic. It represents a revitalization of the franchise's mission, energy, and commitment to excellence both on and off the field. Since taking over leadership, Kranz has focused on building a stronger connection with the Cedar Rapids community and elevating the entire organization to new heights. We want the community of Cedar Rapids and our fans to know that we will be the hottest ticket in town on and off the field. We're going to deliver an experience that everyone can be proud of, said Krantz. The Titans are not just reintroducing a beloved name, they are building a movement. The organization is placing a high priority on community engagement and will be seen throughout the city in schools, churches, local events, and everywhere in between. Everywhere you go, you'll either see or hear us. We're going to be active and visible. The team belongs to the people of Cedar Rapids, Krantz continued. Fans can also expect a noticeable improvement in the caliber of play. The Titans are assembling a roster filled with talent from top college programs and former professional players, including veterans of the NFL. This renewed focus on competitive excellence is designed to bring fast-paced, high-energy football back to Cedar Rapids in a big way. Our level of play will be much better than in recent years, said Krantz. We're putting in the work to bring you a team that can compete and entertain at the highest level. Love the Titans like I do, he added. They will proudly continue as a member of the American Indoor Football League and are preparing for a strong showing in the 2026 season. Fans can look forward to the unveiling of a new logo, updated merchandise, and a full slate of community events as the team prepares to reclaim its legacy and future. Coach B, do you have any thoughts on this rebrand?
This is a heck of a rebrand. It's going to be hard to do on this one, because that city had a bad spill with the Titans, had a bad spill with the River Kings. So you really just going in there And I don't know. You trying to make something out of nothing, and that's the hard part right there. Like, how are you gonna do that? And so you got to build up that town. And I think with Dom being the owner, that's the hard part right there because he has a lot of bad milk in people's mouth. So it's on Dom to change the narrative there. And they gonna have to bring in some real players, not no 50, 40-year-old players like they've been doing. So that right there is gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. I feel like it kind of came out of left field. I felt like they had already kind of rebuilt the Cedar Rapids River Kings brand a little bit over the past year. I mean, we actually reported on some things that were not great, in 2023, I think it was. And then this past year in 2024, from everything I heard, they kind of cleaned up the organization. There were not any issues. And they seem to be off on the right foot, obviously playing at a level a little bit lower than the NAL, but at the same time, still looking to be a stable franchise. And he also successfully ran 2 franchises this season with Corville Chaos, another one of his projects as well. So I'm curious to see exactly how this AIF, this version of the AIF continues, because now they're bringing back the Wyoming Cavalry. I believe that's also owned by Don Montero, if I'm not mistaken. And then they're also bringing back the Pennsylvania Union. So, I mean, kind of an interesting alignment of teams. And realistically, lately, Pennsylvania has not been a very friendly market for indoor football teams. So it'll be interesting to see if that team can find success out there where a lot of others have not. But, kudos to Don Montero and what he's done there with the AIF, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to pull punches. I thought when the AIF was initially announced, there was going to be some serious legal ramifications because it was put out there very quickly that he did not have the legal rights to be using the AIF name. Nothing's come of it. So maybe this was, a strategic move on the other part of the people who
Well,
owned the
well,
AIF
Sam,
name.
I did hear some legal ramifications going on in the background, so that might be the reason of rebranding too. We never know.
Interesting. Well, I mean, my thing though is like I was under the impression it was the league name that would be the issue. So I that was another reason why I'm like, why are we rebranding the River Kings and not the league? But so far nothing's happened with that. I mean, maybe it comes down the road, but realistically, it seems like the AIF has a pretty decent foundation so far. But do you know anything else about these new teams coming back, the Union or the Cavalry?
No, like I've heard about Wyoming coming back, then boom, it went silent. I don't even know if they actually are gonna put the team up there. That's what I said. What you got now? That did you see that they said Billings is up for sale or something like that? So I how you know that he's not gonna go back to Wyoming? How you know that he's not gonna go to Denver? I'm thinking Denver is a very good Colorado's a very good place for him to move his franchise with the roots he got. You know what I mean?
How about Colorado? Bring me all the teams.
I heard he's real big in Colorado Pueblo over there at that university, so it would make sense, don't you think?
No, it definitely would. I mean, we actually touched on this last week, but no, he's born. As far as I know, he was born in Colorado Springs. Grew up in Colorado Springs, so literally from the same town that I live in right now. And then he attended Colorado State University Pueblo and was just honored there a couple weeks ago, and actually missed one of the Billings games to be there to be honored. So definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. Would not shock me at all if it was Wyoming. I know that obviously he owned the Wyoming Mustangs before, but I know that it would have to be in a new town. Gillette and the Camplex, he was not a big fan of because of that low-hanging scoreboard. So I think he would be moving on to probably like Casper, Wyoming. But I could see the Outlaws being in Wyoming. I could see them being in Colorado. I could see him potentially moving them to other cities that he thinks would be viable. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really interesting offseason between the AIF bringing back 2 teams, to see what happens with the TAL and their continued expansion. The ENTFLA is already kind of throwing some red flags out there that are a little concerning. So there's going to be a lot of
that threw me for a loop. Like they just gonna play like a tournament.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. At least that's what's been put out there. I don't have a yay or nay on if that's accurate yet. We have an interview scheduled with the league owner, Douglas Freeman. It was supposed to be this past Wednesday. He had to postpone it. So we're supposedly doing this upcoming Wednesday. That will be a live interview. So please tune in. Make sure to get your questions in. That link is already up. So you can go to the Shady Sports Network page, look at upcoming events. And if you want to start dropping comments for us to read out while we're on air, we can definitely do that. Definitely intrigued to hear his side of the story on what's going on behind the scenes and what led to this transition on the season setup for sure.
Isn't Andre Reed like the commissioner of the league or something like that?
He is, but he seems like a figurehead, if I'm being honest.
Like a Tim Brown.
Yeah, very, very similar to TAL. Yes, he's there in name and spirit. I'm sure he'll be involved, but I don't think he's the one that's running the show by any stretch.
Okay.
But
makes sense.
Definitely curious to see how things go down for them as well. It seems like there's been a lot of turmoil here as of late, all of a sudden.
I'm curious to see how Cedar Rapids. I played there when we were the Titans before, and that town loves football. So when you screw it over, though, it's hard to get them back on your side. And I think when Roy Coy came in there, he did a good job because he had big money, and I haven't seen another owner before or after him have the same type of money that can do what he can do for that city. So when you come in there, you got to make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's and make sure it's legit. You can't just put them in a 3-team league, even if you add Wyoming in them. I really don't think that league's sustainable. They need to merge with another league to make that sustainable, to build up that fan base and get a fan base a bang for their buck. I watched some of them games last year, and it was like maybe 300 people in the stands. And I don't know what arena team can run off of 300 people a game. And if that's turning it around, I don't think so. When I was there, we averaged over 2,500 a game when we were in the IFL. So it's about properly doing it the right way and not cheating the system. And I think a lot of what we're getting now out of arena football is we're getting cheated out of the real system of arena football. And it's just a lot of people want to jump in here and be owners and say they own an arena football team and actually doing the work and the homework to know what it takes to own an arena football team. Because realistically, if you're not a billionaire, you're going to lose about $1 million in the first 3 years unless you got a strong marketing team or a marketing plan.
I think that's very well said. And actually, this is a subject that I didn't get a chance to ask you about, and I want to go ahead and ask your opinion on this. We talked about it just a moment ago. There's kind of been some rumors around Billings potentially being for sale. What are your thoughts on the value of a team like that? What do you think a purchase price would look like for the Billings Outlaws?
It's kind of hard to say because if this was Billings last year, they would be worth a lot of money. But Billings this year, with the low ticket sales, don't know the situation behind the scenes with the financials, payroll and stuff like that. You don't know what you really inheriting. And then you got to start over in a new market or somewhere else. So you got to think about travel, rebranding, the money going to cost to pay that. So I can't say. I would say about 75 to 200K in between that range, somewhere in between that range, if that.
Oh, wow. That's much lower than I thought. I actually have it higher. but with the thought process that you're probably purchasing it to keep them in Billings, to keep the branding, so you're not, changing the name or changing anything really, just keeping the Outlaws name, keeping them right there in Billings, maybe even trying to continue at Metro Park. But it'll be interesting. Like I said, I think we're overdue for another kind of massive realignment. It's only been 2 seasons since it happened, but a lot of these teams are not working with league affiliation agreements, and some of them could potentially jump leagues. So I think it's going to be an interesting offseason between the AF1 and the NAL specifically. And then the IFL has
Quick
some
question.
business coming down.
Do you think corporate stays AF1?
Yes, I do.
You think they got the funds to stay AF1 next year?
Well, that's the thing. Like, quietly behind the scenes, it sounds like they changed ownership group. So from what I understand, the ownership that's there now seems to be doing everything correctly.
Right. But they still have to pay the bills, the past bills and stuff like that, which that's going to hinder them in the offseason, paying the sponsors, getting back in good standings with the city. So now what are you going to have to pay on payroll again next year? Now you got to go back and how many of them sponsors are going to renew after what happened this year?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's going to be a challenge for sure. And that's another thing that I've been confused by. Like, how do, as a potential arena football owner, what do you gain by purchasing an established team, especially one that's in a position like Corpus Christi? I understand if you're trying to buy into the Outlaws. They seem like they're in good standing. They have all the equipment you need, all the dasher pads, the rebound nets, the end zone or the.
But this is the question: are you buying outright the whole team, or is Titus still going to be percentage of an owner? Because that makes a big factor in what the sale cost going to be as well too.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. If you're buying, the majority and you keep Titus on as a minority owner, I think that would be an interesting situation as well. I don't know that Titus would necessarily want to take that role, but I've never asked him that question, so that would be something to follow along with as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't see the draw to purchasing a team like Corpus Christi. I thought the same thing about Carolina. Like, why would you want to buy into a brand that has a tarnished reputation? Like, why, if you're going to go revive a team or purchase into a team, we talked about it earlier. Why wouldn't you want to go after a team like the San Jose SaberCats, one that had a really good reputation all the way up until the end, and then they shuttered the doors before it got bad? That's a team name where I bet you if you go back to San Jose, there's a lot of people with fond memories of the SaberCats who would be really excited to have that team come back. But, our fans in Greensboro, North Carolina, are they still wanting to see the Carolina Cobras come back with all the negative press that's been surrounding them? The unpaid sponsors or the sponsorship agreements not honored, the vendors that didn't get paid, the players that didn't get paid, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I know they're cleaning up some of that stuff, but it just seems like, why wouldn't you just want to start fresh with a whole new name or a name that hasn't been tarnished in that manner?
Well, going to San Jose, you got to have fat pockets. It's expensive as hell to own a team out there, the workman's comp, all that. So if you get somebody to go out there, they got to be really a billionaire, honestly, to have a team out there. And you're going to have to purchase the rights from them out there. And I don't think they're giving up the rights to San Jose SaberCats.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I would be surprised if they still had any sort of equipment laying around for the SaberCats as well. So you'd just be purchasing the naming rights, and that'd be it, I would imagine. So
no, I think they still got all the equipment. It's probably old. They got all the dashers. You got to realize the Fries own half of San Jose, California. They got their own electronics store, own appliance store, own moving companies, storage units. So they probably got that stuff all in storage.
I mean, maybe. I would think, why would you keep that unless you're planning a return to arena football at some point?
They still own part of the rights to the actual AFL.
I thought they had sold the rights. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's a subject for another day. We've already been here for about an hour and 45 minutes. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Let's have fun watching some football this weekend. Playoff football tonight. Big games. Let's go, Cato.
All right, definitely. So some big implications on the line for a couple games tonight. If you can catch the Southwest Kansas game tonight, awesome. If not, tune in tomorrow. Make sure you catch the Goats playing tonight as well against Duluth. That's going to be a great game. A lot of good football on tonight. I believe there's some UFL games as well. I think there's some CFL games as well. So definitely make sure you're keeping that TV on, flipping the channels. Make sure you're watching all the different games because there's a lot of football tonight, and it's going to be a great weekend. Once again, real quick, we have stickers. I know I've been shouting that out a lot, but I want to get that word out there. And actually, I think we're probably just going to do them for like $2 a piece. If you buy 3 or more, I'll do them for $1. So if you want any stickers, hit us up on direct messenger and we will get back with you and send them in the mail right away. And then also we have merch. If you haven't checked it out already, I'm not wearing my shirt today, but we have t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, flex fit hats, and then also trucker style hats. There's also a fantasy reports line. Check that out as well. And I think we've got a couple more that will be coming down the pike pretty soon. Really appreciate everybody who tuned in today. And I think we've kept pretty steady, right around 45, 50 viewers. Honestly, it's awesome to have such a dedicated audience on this show as we continue to grow it. If you're an indoor arena football fan, definitely make sure you're sharing the link, telling your friends about it, etc. We should have a pretty good episode coming up next week. Got a couple guests already lined up from multiple leagues, so definitely tune in again next week. And we're, just because we're hitting the playoffs in the NAL does not mean the season's over, does not mean the show's ending anytime soon. We still have the TAL, we still have whatever goes on with the ENTFLA. We still have the rest of the AF1 season and basically half a year of IFL football to go. So we're far from done. Make sure you're tuning in every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, and we will catch you guys in the next episode. Also, shout out to you, Coach B. I really appreciate you tuning in here at the end and helping me finish out the show.
No problem, my guy.
Definitely. Best of luck tonight, sir.
Alrighty.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.